My beloved brothers and sisters, never walk alone when Allah is your guardian. His protection is absolute, complete, and beyond what the human mind can fully comprehend. The nature of His guardianship is unlike the protection that comes from people or even from the most secure systems in the world. Human beings, no matter how strong, sincere, or powerful they may be, are limited in their ability to guard others. They can only watch over you for a period of time. They may fail in moments of weakness, and sometimes they may abandon you when it becomes inconvenient. But when Allah declares Himself as your guardian, there is no possibility of failure, no chance of negligence, and no limit to the scope of His protection. He safeguards your body, your soul, your honor, your reputation, and above all, your faith. What many people fail to realize is that Allah protects His servants in countless unseen ways. There are times when a person is walking down a road and is shielded from an accident without even knowing it. There are instances where harm was intended by someone, but Allah diverted it away before it could reach you. There are diseases, losses, and dangers that could have destroyed you, but Allah did not allow them to come near. That is why believers often reflect and say, had it not been for the protection of Allah, they would not have survived. His guardianship is not partial or selective. It encompasses everything that concerns you, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual. When we study the Quran, we see countless reminders of this divine guardianship. Allah tells us that He is the best protector and the most merciful of those who show mercy. These words are not meant as abstract concepts, but as promises that give comfort and security to the believer. When Allah guards someone, even the mightiest army cannot harm them. And when Allah protects the heart of a believer, no whisper of doubt can shake their faith. This absolute guardianship means that the believer is always safe in the truest sense, even if they are surrounded by enemies or even if they are placed in the most difficult circumstances. This is because safety is not simply about the absence of harm, but about being under the care and control of the one who owns all creation. There are also many lessons in the stories of the prophets that show us how Allah's guardianship operates in miraculous ways. The Prophet Ibrahim was thrown into a fire by his people, but Allah commanded the fire to be cool and safe for him. The Prophet Musa was cornered by Pharaoh's army at the sea, yet Allah split the water to provide a path of safety. The Prophet Muhammad was pursued by enemies who wanted to take his life, but Allah concealed him in a cave and placed His tranquility upon him. These stories are not just history, they are living examples that Allah's guardianship is absolute and timeless. They remind us that if Allah is our guardian, nothing in existence can truly harm us. Sometimes a person may ask, why then do believers still face trials, pain, or loss? The answer lies in the understanding that Allah's guardianship does not mean a life without challenges. Rather, it means that even within those challenges, Allah protects the believer from ultimate harm. A trial may test your patience, but it will never destroy your faith if Allah is guarding your heart. A loss may bring tears, but it will never erase your hope if Allah is your protector. Even death itself, which seems like the greatest loss, becomes a gateway to eternal peace and mercy when Allah is your guardian. Therefore, recognizing Allah as your guardian is one of the most powerful sources of strength for a believer. It allows you to walk through life with courage, knowing that nothing can touch you unless Allah allows it. And if He allows it, then it carries wisdom and benefit for you. His protection is not only absolute, but perfectly aligned with what is best for you in this world and the next. When Allah is your guardian, you have nothing to fear, nothing to grieve over, and nothing to lose. For everything is within His control. When Allah is your guardian, no plot or scheme of people can ever harm you. Human beings are often surrounded by envy, jealousy, and ill intentions. There are always those who wish to see others fail, who conspire in secret, and who may even dedicate their efforts to causing harm. At times you may feel overwhelmed by the opposition, as if the entire world is conspiring against you. But the reality is that all these plans are insignificant in front of the will of Allah. The Quran makes it clear. They plan, and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. This verse should settle deeply in the hearts of believers, because it shows us that no matter how elaborate or powerful the schemes of people may seem, Allah's plan always prevails. When Allah is your guardian, you do not need to fear the plots of creation, because their strength is nothing compared to His. History and scripture are full of examples of how Allah nullified the plans of those who sought to harm His chosen servants. The enemies of the Prophet devised strategies to silence, humiliate, and even kill them. Yet every time Allah's protection was superior. Think of the Prophet Yusuf, who was betrayed by his own brothers and thrown into a well. Their plan was to erase him from their lives, but Allah turned their betrayal into the beginning of his journey toward greatness. What they intended as harm, Allah used as a stepping stone to elevate him to honor and leadership. Similarly, the Prophet Musa was pursued by Pharaoh's army with the intent to kill him and his followers. But Allah split the sea, allowing them to escape while the enemies drowned. The enemies plotted, but Allah's guardianship saved and honored His Prophet. These stories are eternal reminders that when Allah guards you, the harm people plot against you only turns back upon them, and what was meant to break you instead strengthens and elevates you. In daily life, believers also face such tests on different scales. Sometimes it is in the form of false accusations, where people attempt to tarnish your reputation. At other times, it may be in the form of betrayal from those closest to you. You may encounter workplaces where colleagues conspire against you, communities where envy drives people to spread rumors, or even family situations where hidden plots are designed to cause you distress. In all these scenarios, if Allah is your guardian, you do not need to engage in endless battles trying to defend yourself. You simply need to remain steadfast, trust in His justice, and understand that His protection is far greater than your efforts. In fact, one of the greatest forms of strength is to remain silent and patient when others slander you, knowing that Allah Himself will defend your honor and expose the truth at the right time. The reality is that when people plan against you, they do so with limited knowledge. They cannot see the future, nor do they have control over outcomes. Allah, on the other hand, knows every hidden detail, every whispered word, and every secret plot. He allows certain schemes to proceed only to reveal His power and wisdom when He nullifies them. Often what people intend as harm becomes a means for your growth and elevation. How many times have believers faced opposition only to come out stronger, purer, and more beloved to Allah because of the way they endured? How many times has an enemy's plan ended up benefiting the very person they wished to destroy? This is the miracle of Allah's guardianship, turning the harm of people into benefit for His servant. Therefore, the believer who knows that Allah is their guardian lives with a calm heart, unaffected by the whispers of enemies or the conspiracies of jealous hearts. Such a person understands that their protection does not come from their own cleverness or resources, but from the Lord of the heavens and earth. This faith brings peace in the middle of opposition, patience in the face of betrayal, and dignity in the face of slander. People may think they have power, but the truth is that all power belongs to Allah, and He uses it to guard those who put their trust in Him. When Allah is your guardian, the plots of people cannot harm you, for their strength will always crumble before His infinite might. When Allah is your guardian, His closeness to you becomes most evident in moments of loneliness, sadness, and abandonment. Human beings naturally crave companionship, support, and encouragement. But the reality of life is that even the closest of friends, the most loving of relatives, and the most sincere of supporters will eventually let you down. Sometimes intentionally, other times unintentionally. There are moments when you cry in silence, when your pain is hidden from the world, and when you feel as though no one truly understands what you are going through. It is in those very moments that the guardianship of Allah shines with unmatched beauty and power. He is the one who never abandons, never forgets, and never fails to respond to the cries of His servant. Allah reminds us in the Qur'an that He is closer to us than our jugular vein. This verse is not just a metaphorical statement, but a profound truth meant to bring comfort to every believer. It means that Allah knows what you do not utter. He sees the tears that never fall, and He understands the worries that even you cannot put into words. When no one is there to hold your hand, Allah is already holding your heart. When you feel overwhelmed by the weight of your burdens, Allah is the one who gently lifts them from you. This realization transforms the believer's perspective on loneliness. You are never truly alone if Allah is your guardian, for His presence is constant, His mercy is endless, and His care surrounds you in ways you may never fully comprehend. Many times people experience abandonment by those they trusted most. A friend may turn away, a family member may betray, or a spouse may fail to provide the support one expected. Such experiences often leave deep scars, making one feel vulnerable and exposed. But for the believer who remembers Allah's guardianship, such moments become opportunities to draw even closer to Him. People leaving you is not always a misfortune. Sometimes it is Allah's way of turning your heart back to Him, reminding you that He is the only one who will never disappoint. Every closed door with people is an open door to Allah, and every broken tie with creation is a stronger tie with the Creator. The guardianship of Allah in times of loneliness is not only about emotional comfort, it is also about guidance and direction. When you are lost in confusion, not knowing which decision to make or which path to take, Allah inspires clarity in your heart. He steers you toward choices that bring benefit and steers you away from those that bring harm, even if you do not realize it in the moment. Sometimes you are denied an opportunity you desperately wanted, and you feel crushed only to later realize that it was Allah protecting you from something harmful. Other times you are guided towards something unexpected that turns out to be a blessing far greater than what you had prayed for. This is the subtle, intimate way in which Allah's guardianship works, especially when you are most vulnerable. Loneliness also teaches the believer that true reliance should be on Allah alone. If you only depend on people, you will be disappointed again and again. But if you place your full trust in Allah, you will find a source of strength that never runs out. He provides comfort to the heart, serenity to the soul, and hope to the mind, even in the darkest of times. This is why the greatest of believers, the prophets, often experienced isolation and rejection from their people. Allah allowed them to feel the pain of being abandoned by others, so that they could taste the sweetness of His nearness in ways ordinary people might not. Their stories show us that the deeper the loneliness from creation, the stronger the bond with the Creator becomes. Therefore, the believers should never despair when people abandon them or when they feel misunderstood. These moments are not signs of weakness, but opportunities for spiritual strength. It is in these times that Allah's guardianship becomes most personal and most powerful. He is closer to you than anyone else could ever be, and His knowledge of your situation is perfect. He guards you when you feel exposed, comforts you when you feel broken, and reassures you when you feel uncertain. With Allah as your guardian, loneliness is never emptiness, but rather an invitation to experience His love and mercy more deeply than ever before. When Allah is your guardian, true reliance on Him becomes a necessity, not merely a choice. You cannot claim that Allah is watching over you while your heart is fully tied to your own abilities, wealth, or worldly connections. To live under His guardianship requires faith, patience, and surrender. It is about recognizing that your efforts, while important, are never the ultimate source of success or protection. Allah is the one who controls outcomes. And true reliance means using the means He provides while knowing deep within your heart that the final result rests with Him alone. This balance between effort and trust is one of the most profound qualities of a believer, and it is what elevates a person from fear and anxiety into peace and certainty. Many people misunderstand the concept of reliance on Allah. Some think that it means doing nothing and waiting for miracles to happen, while others believe it means trusting only in themselves and their resources. The truth lies between these extremes. A believer works hard, takes the steps available, and uses the tools Allah has placed in their hands. But once they have done their part, they leave the outcome in His care. They do not panic if things do not go as planned, nor do they despair if doors close in their faces. They know that Allah's wisdom is greater than their own, and His knowledge is more complete than anything they can perceive. This understanding transforms trials into opportunities and failures into lessons, because the believer knows that if Allah willed something to happen, it was for their good, and if He prevented it, it was also for their good. The life of the Prophet Muhammad offers countless examples of this kind of reliance. When he and his companion were hiding in the cave during their migration, the enemies were right at the mouth of the cave. Any logical calculation would have concluded that they would be caught, yet he reassured his companion, saying that Allah is with them. That moment demonstrates true reliance, using the means of hiding, but placing ultimate trust in Allah's protection. Similarly, when facing battles where the Muslims were outnumbered, they did not rely solely on their weapons or numbers, but on the certainty that Allah's help would descend. And indeed, it did, time after time. These lessons are timeless reminders that reliance on Allah is not a theory, but a lived reality for those who take Him as their guardian. True reliance also brings patience. When a believer understands that Allah controls everything, they learn to wait without frustration. They do not rush outcomes or become bitter when results are delayed. Instead, they continue to work and pray, trusting that Allah's timing is perfect. This patience is a shield against despair, because the believer knows that every delay carries wisdom and every hardship carries hidden blessings. Reliance and patience work hand in hand, strengthening the heart and keeping it steadfast in the face of life's uncertainty. Surrender is another essential aspect of living under Allah's guardianship. Surrender does not mean giving up effort, rather it means giving up the illusion of control. Many times people live in constant stress because they want to control every detail of their lives, forgetting that only Allah holds such power. Surrender means acknowledging your limits, accepting Allah's decree, and saying with sincerity, "Oh Allah, I have done my part, and now I leave the rest to you." This kind of surrender brings immense peace because it frees the believer from the heavy burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. When a believer achieves true reliance, patience, and surrender, they begin to taste the sweetness of faith. They no longer fear the unknown, for they know Allah is guiding them. They no longer panic at the loss of wealth, health, or people, for they know Allah never takes without giving something better. They no longer measure success solely by worldly standards, for they understand that true success lies in remaining close to Allah regardless of circumstances. This is the essence of living under His guardianship, using the means of this world but keeping your heart firmly anchored in His care. When Allah is your guardian, your heart finds peace even in the midst of the fiercest storms. Life is full of trials, difficulties, and uncertainties that can shake a person to their core. People worry about their livelihoods, their families, their health, and their future. And these concerns often lead to sleepless nights and restless hearts. Yet the believer who truly understands the guardianship of Allah lives in a state of tranquility that others cannot comprehend. This peace does not come from a life without problems, but from a heart that trusts completely in the one who controls all affairs. The storms may rage outside, but inside the heart remains calm, knowing that nothing will happen except by the will of Allah, and that everything He decrees carries wisdom and mercy. The Qur'an emphasizes that it is in the remembrance of Allah that hearts find rest. This rest is not temporary comfort, but deep, lasting serenity that no amount of wealth or power can buy. When Allah is your guardian, you remember Him constantly, and that remembrance becomes the anchor that keeps you grounded when life tries to toss you around. The believer knows that the world is fleeting, and so are its problems. What truly matters is staying connected to Allah, for that connection brings peace that does not depend on circumstances. You could be in a palace or in a prison, surrounded by people or utterly alone, but if your heart is guarded by Allah, you will feel at peace. Consider the examples of the prophets, who endured trials greater than most of us can imagine. Yet their hearts were filled with tranquility. The prophet Ibrahim faced the fire, but his heart was at peace because he knew Allah was in control. The prophet Musa faced the sea with an army behind him, yet he reassured his people that Allah was with them. The prophet Muhammad faced rejection, slander, and battles, yet he was known for his calmness and unshakable trust in Allah. Their peace was not the result of easy circumstances, but the fruit of reliance on their guardian. These examples are meant to teach us that the same peace is available to anyone who puts their trust in Allah. The peace that comes from Allah's guardianship also protects the believer from the destructive effects of fear. Fear of failure, fear of poverty, fear of illness, fear of losing loved ones. These fears dominate the hearts of many people, leading them to despair or even hopelessness. But when Allah is your guardian, you remember that everything is already written and that nothing will happen except with His permission. This realization removes unnecessary fear because you know that even if the worst happens, it is part of Allah's plan, and His plan is always good for you. Fear is replaced by courage, and anxiety is replaced by contentment, because the believer knows that Allah is sufficient as a protector. Another blessing of this inner peace is that it allows the believer to focus on what truly matters. When the heart is restless, people chase the world endlessly, hoping to find comfort in material things, only to be disappointed. But when Allah grants peace to the heart, you no longer depend on possessions or people for your happiness. You can enjoy blessings when they come, but you are not devastated when they leave, because your source of peace is unshakable. It is Allah. This is the reason why some people with very little wealth live in greater happiness than those with palaces and riches, because their peace does not come from what they own, but from the one who owns everything. Peace of the heart is one of the greatest gifts that Allah gives to His servants, and it is only possible when He is taken as the guardian. It is a peace that allows you to smile even through tears, to hope even in hardship, and to trust even when you cannot see a way forward. It is a peace that gives you strength to keep moving when life seems unbearable, and patience to wait when the journey feels long. This is why the believer who truly relies on Allah lives a life of serenity that confuses others. They wonder how someone can remain calm in the face of so many challenges. But the secret lies in the guardianship of Allah. He guards not just the body but the heart, filling it with tranquility that cannot be shaken by worldly storm. When Allah is your guardian, you come to realize that His guardianship is the greatest gift a believer can ever receive. People often chase after wealth, status, recognition, or influence, believing that these things will bring them happiness and security. Yet all of these blessings are fragile, temporary, and can be taken away at any moment. Wealth can vanish overnight, status can crumble, recognition can turn into rejection, and influence can be stripped away. But when Allah is your guardian, you possess something far more valuable than all of these combined. You carry a blessing that cannot be taken from you as long as you remain sincere in your faith. It is a blessing that provides you with strength in your weakness, protection in your vulnerability, and dignity in times when the world tries to humiliate you. It is a gift that sustains you, not only in this world, but also in the next. What makes this gift so remarkable is that it transforms the entire outlook of life. With Allah as your guardian, you no longer see trials as punishments, but as pathways to growth and nearness to Him. You no longer see losses as the end, but as openings for better things that Allah has planned. You no longer measure your success by worldly standards, but by the closeness you feel to your Creator. This shift in perspective is a treasure that only those under the guardianship of Allah can truly taste. It is a gift that turns hardship into ease, grief into hope, and despair into resilience. Even when the believer walks through the darkest valleys of life, this gift of guardianship ensures that their heart remains illuminated with faith. The gift of Allah's guardianship also protects your dignity in ways you may not always perceive. There are countless situations where people seek to humiliate or belittle others, whether through slander, mockery, or betrayal. But when Allah guards you, He raises your honor in ways that people cannot touch. Sometimes He does this by exposing the falsehood of your enemies. Other times He does it by planting love and respect for you in the hearts of people you have never even met. And sometimes the dignity He gives you is not even in the eyes of people, but in the peace of your own heart. The knowledge that you are honored in the sight of your Lord, even if the world turns against you. This is a form of protection and elevation that no human power can offer, only Allah. This gift also ensures that you are never truly defeated. Outwardly, you may face losses, failures, or hardships that seem unbearable, but inwardly, you remain victorious because your faith remains intact and your connection to Allah is preserved. True defeat is not the loss of wealth or status. True defeat is the loss of faith. And as long as Allah is guarding you, He will protect your faith from being extinguished, no matter how strong the trials may be. This is why so many righteous people of the past could endure prison, torture, exile, and poverty without losing their strength. They knew that Allah was guarding their faith, and so long as that was safe, everything else was secondary. When Allah grants you this gift, gratitude becomes natural. You begin to see His hand in every detail of your life, guiding you, protecting you, and elevating you. You realize that what others consider ordinary is actually extraordinary, because it is infused with His care. The food you eat, the shelter you have, the friends who support you, and even the challenges that refine you, all are signs of His guardianship. This gratitude fills your heart with joy and keeps you connected to Him in every situation, whether easy or difficult. In the end, the guardianship of Allah is not just protection from harm. It is the greatest blessing that makes life meaningful, purposeful, and hopeful. It is a gift that keeps you steady when others fall, content when others despair, and strong when others give up. It is the gift that secures your path in this world and guarantees your salvation in the hereafter. To have Allah as your guardian is to possess the most priceless treasure that exists, one that outweighs every other blessing you could ever imagine. It is indeed the greatest gift a believer can hold on to, for with it you can face this world and the next with complete confidence and peace.